Yup, that's right. The title you read before clicking this video isn't a typo. Since today, we're gonna look at a being so ridiculously powerful, he makes Gojo, Saitama, and Goku all look like scrubs. But wait, is he stronger than Goku? I mean, yeah, I just said that. Hell, even someone like Anos Voldigold would have trouble with someone like the character I'm about to mention. And the show that I'm talking about is none other than the disastrous life of Saiki K.
僕の名前はサイキクスよ。超能力者である。
Now, if you haven't watched this show, you may be wondering, what makes this random kid with pink hair and green glasses so damn powerful? Well, a lot of things actually, but it's mostly because he has so many different powers and abilities, it's damn near impossible to keep track of them all.
テレパシー、サイコキネシス、透視、予知、テレポート、千里眼、エトセトラ。大抵のことはできてしまう。
But before we get into this, I need to say that I think I did a pretty good job of avoiding spoilers, but if you really want to watch this show without any prior knowledge, there's a couple things you should know. One, this show is one of those where it's much better in sub than it is in dub, because the dub will mistranslate lines completely, which don't make the jokes nearly as funny.
Like I said, Nindo's a moron.
2, the format to watch this show is kinda unique, since you watch the first 2 seasons, then watch the first 5 episodes of the Netflix season, stop, watch the 45-minute special episode, and then watch the final episode of the Netflix season, which is the real finale. And 3, this show has a lot of subtitles, so I feel like being able to keep up with the show is an achievement on its own. And just to give y'all an idea of what we're about to get into, he was able to talk as soon as he came out the womb by using his telepathic powers. At 1 month old, he was able to walk on air. When he was 1 year old, he was able to run errands. By the age of 5, he was able to lift a skyscraper with his mind, blow up the moon, and constantly blew up his house in his sleep by accident. And as he got older, he became so ridiculously powerful, he needs to have limiters on all the time, which are the 2 antennas on his head, in order to restrict his powers. So, yeah. This is gonna get hectic. So, first off, we'll start off with his most prominent ability, which is seen and used throughout the entire show, telepathy, which means he can read minds up to 200 meters away. And furthermore, it acts as a personal radar he can use in order to anticipate people who are close to him and create scenarios where he can avoid them. And just in case it wasn't broken enough, he can remove and add thoughts in order to make someone more focused or distracted, can make people hear voices, can give people forced telepathy, which basically makes people share their own thoughts. He can use
immediate telepathy,
which makes it so that when he touches someone, he can send them images or memories of other people via telepathy. He has X-ray vision, which allows him to look through anything, and is constantly on because he literally can't turn it off.
詳しくはサイキクソの災難を読んでほしい。
He has thoughtography, which instantly converts thoughts into actions, and allows him to do stuff like instantly finish homework by simply looking at it. Has psychokinesis, which is basically complete control over telekinesis. Has an ability called clairvoyance, which means he's able to see exactly what's happening from far away, but he has to cross his eyes inward and look stupid in order to use it. Has complete control and immunity to pyrokinesis, which he can use to simply warm his body if it's too cold, or set everything on fire if he so chooses. Has precognition, which allows him to see parts of the future and prevent it from happening, and it may even be shown to him in a dream before he wakes up, although he doesn't have to be asleep to see visions of the future and what will happen. Teleportation, which does have a limit of up to 3 minutes, but I swear I've seen him use it multiple times in less than 3 minutes, and without taking his limiters off. Ridiculously strong super strength, so much so that his normal throw usually exceeds 1200 kilometers an hour, around the speed of sound, but does rewind time for that thing by 1 day. Psychometry, which is the ability to read a person's feelings and memories that have been stored in an inanimate object, can become invisible at will, which includes his clothes, Toru from My Hero, your ass, and is able to touch objects while invisible, but if anyone touches him, he'll become visible again. Can transform into anyone or anything he wants, including a gorilla, child, or even a girl. can use giant energy blasts like everybody's favorite character, can exchange items for things of equal or similar value from any distance, can use this thing that looks like the TV Tokyo mascot to erase 1 minute of someone's memories, has the ability to use hypnosis on people, is able to fly, obviously, can use his ability to shrink himself to whatever size he wants, and remains his strength while shrinking, has an ability called petrification, which means that when he makes eye contact with anyone when his glasses are off, they'll be instantly turned into stone by his petrification ability, which technically also instantly kills the person since it stops their heart, can use astral projection, which is a power that lets himself separate his soul from his body, which surprisingly doesn't kill him when he uses it, even though his body is technically dead, has the power to create anything from nothing, is able to create a 50 centimeter radius barrier that lasts for a full day, can shoot super strong piercing lasers that come from his eyes, which he never uses because he has to replace his glasses every time he uses it, the power to vaporize all of the water in a living being's body, has the power to instantly heal others or himself, can dislocate his joints at will, can breathe underwater or space, can place invisible barriers where he pleases, like Rising of the Shield Hero, accidentally blows up stuff by sneezing, and I know I warned y'all already, but you should prepare yourself again, because the next powers somehow get even more ridiculous. So he has a power called bilocation, which is basically Shadow Clone Jutsu, but with a couple slight differences. So bilocation requires him to remove the control device to use, but the doubles remain even when he puts it back on. The doubles have nearly all the powers the main body does, and in order to make more, he needs to tell his doubles to make doubles of themselves, and while this power is broken, there are a couple downsides. So basically, the clones can feel all the pain the main host feels, but the main host does not feel the pain of the clones. Some doubles turn evil, and probably worst of all, their physical appearance is completely random. However, if Shadow Clone Jutsu wasn't enough, he can also use time travel, or as he likes to call it, time leap. And since I'm trying to avoid spoilers, I won't really say anything, but basically, Time Leap allows him to travel to any point in the last 5 years before the present. But now, so, you ever wonder why no one in the show thinks, yup, Psyche literally has the ability to brainwash the entire Earth, if he so chooses. And when I say mind control, I don't mean that he can simply control someone to do whatever he wants, even though I'm pretty sure he can totally do that. I mean that he literally has complete control over people's minds, and can place or remove thoughts of his choosing. For example, he made it so people in his universe can get healed from injuries super quickly, which is a joke about the anime trope where animes get healed super quick. And because of this minor change, humans started to expect minor wounds to heal immediately, and as a result of this, every single human's healing ability dramatically increased. Not only that though, but his powers made people think they talk faster, which resulted in humans evolving to rapidly speed up their brain processes at critical moments, which is another joke about how time moves different when anime characters are thinking. When clothes get torn, the crotch area is left untouched, guys with less muscles are able to be people with lots of muscles, a simple chop can leave someone unconscious, and clothes instantly go back to normal when torn. Which, if you haven't noticed, are all jokes about common tropes we see in almost every anime. Oh, and there's also this power. But now that we finally explained most of Psyche's powers, let's talk about some of the feats he accomplishes with these powers. So one time, he fixed a broken motorcycle that was out of his sight and pretty far away, using only his telekinesis powers. He once used Sukuna's slicing ability, but was accurate enough with it to make it so only their clothes got cut. He once used his photography powers to draw a portrait of someone, but since he's such a great artist, he couldn't stop himself from drawing the voice actor of the character he meant to draw, survived the fall from an elevator thing by jumping at the exact moment of impact, managed to be accurate enough to flick a pill out of someone's hands and replace it with a chocolate, once made every government across the world panic because he took his limiters off, was able to stop a typhoon with his telekinesis, once had an isekai protagonist become his teacher, so he teleported the teacher back to an isekai world and dropped him off, once stopped a meteor that was gonna blow up all of Japan, stopped every satellite on Earth in order to avoid surveillance, managed to put a pipe inside of wood and make the ends disappear, which I don't even understand at all. Managed to do a magic trick where he pulled this out of his school bag. And just so you guys understand how much the limiters hold him back, his telepathy range with his limiters off now goes from 200 meters to the entire Earth. A lean against the wall would snap as if it were paper. If he runs, the gale force winds will tear off the clothes of anyone around him. His restoration ability now restores things from 1 day to 7 years, but he can only do it 3 times a day. A slight bump into a random stranger can send them flying like their Team Rocket, or destroy everything up to 5 kilometers in the direction it's facing, and every single move he makes would flatten the land around him. And if that wasn't crazy enough, Psyche's training regimen includes throwing a rock at full speed and catching it, lifting up a giant rock, playing catch with himself with the giant rock, splitting the boulder into thousands of pieces of rubble and dodging each one. He then catches one of the rocks, uses restoration to make the rock go back to normal, and then blocks and destroys every rock before it can be restored. Also, according to this Reddit user who might be Psyche K himself, if Psyche's restoration can rewind objects from 1 day to 7 years when his limiters are off, and 7 years are equal to 2,255 days, then the limiter suppresses powers by about 2,255 times. So, if he is able to punch a wall and destroy everything past it for 7 kilometers with his limiters on, then, if he were to punch normally with his limiters off, it would cover a distance of around 15,785 kilometers, or about 2/5 of the circumference of the Earth. And that's just the force from his punch! Now, if you're wondering how durable he is, I honestly don't know, because other than one person that I won't talk about because of spoilers, no one in this show can really give Psyche a challenge. But considering he said, I'm pretty sure the only person who could damage him is someone of similar strength. Also, Psyche even said himself, so feats about durability is not very common in this show. But aside from durability, let's move on to his weaknesses. And while he doesn't have any major weaknesses, he does have weaknesses. For example, his telepathy loses its effect when there's a lot of people around, although he does have ways of working around it. His clairvoyance and most of his other powers are restricted to things he's already seen. His petrification can be blocked if the person is able to block the face before it can hit them. If his limiters gets pulled out for too long before putting it back on, he still has side effects and has trouble controlling his powers. A certain metal called germanium is capable of completely erasing his powers. Teleporting something like an island over a large distance is almost impossible for him. Oh, and I can't forget about his biggest weakness of all, bugs. One look at these things, and he'll immediately teleport to the opposite side of the planet in order to reassess his strategy.
基本的に無敵の僕だが唯一苦手なものがある。それは虫だ。別に見た目が気持ち悪いとかそういう理由じゃない。まあそれも少しあるが。
And honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, there isn't a single bug that I could call cute. They all just look disgusting. However, none of these weaknesses hold him back more than the one thing that Psyche cannot change. And that is himself, or in better terms, his personality. So you may be wondering, if Psyche is this ridiculously overpowered, how the hell does he not just solve every problem instantly and make each episode only last around 3 minutes? Well, in order to explain that, I need to go into the type of person that Psyche is. You see, according to Psyche,
being a psychic is suffering.
And anything requiring even the slightest bit of social interaction or effort of any kind is just a pain to him. In fact, the phrase he'll use the most is,
やれやれ、面倒だ。やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、やれやれ、静かになったな。
Everything is just annoying. Whether it be his friends who just won't leave him alone, random people on the street, or a woman with mysterious powers on their side, he wants no part of it. Psyche just doesn't like attention. And there's nothing more in the world that would draw more attention to him than if someone figured out that he has powers. So, a large part of the series is Psyche figuring out how to use his powers without people noticing. Oh, and I can't forget to talk about his friends, who for some reason can't seem to leave Saiki alone no matter how much he tries to avoid them. And speaking of his friends, the anime has some of the most outs I have ever seen in my entire life. Every side character has their own individual personality that doesn't really change, but somehow remains just as funny as when it was first introduced. Not only that, but each of the side characters' cliches are common tropes in anime, which are literally pushed to the max. For example, Teruhashi's representation of how every attractive girl thinks of themselves.
自分で言うのもなんだけど、完全に美少女だと思う。これは自意識過剰ではなく、単なる事実。
Chiyo Mahara is the representation of how every attractive girl's best friend thinks of themselves.
超可愛いじゃん。ね、そこの彼女。
Nendo is your classic Patrick Star dumbass who turns out to be one of the funniest and most devious in the series. Teritsuka is your common playboy who's secretly a pervert and tries to rizz up every girl that makes eye contact with him.
Her measurements are 81, 59, 83. She likes to listen to music, she plays synthesizer, she has a...
I'm calling the police.
Hyro is your typical anime protagonist who never gives up and always tries to push his own limits until they literally become ridiculous.
いや本当にすまない50キロ走り込みしてラケットの素振り3000回に腕立て腹筋500回したくらいでこんなになるなんて情けないよ本当いや俺も言い過ぎたよ
帰って寝ろよ。
Kaido is your typical high school student who has 8th grade syndrome.
悪の秘密結社ダークリユニオンついに奴らの人類選別計画が動き出したのだダークリユニオン来た
聞いて損し
Psycho is a kid who has a father who's way too rich for his own good and becomes incredibly cocky because of it.
頭が
あなんだ最高
よー貧乏におい寒いな閉めろ
てめえ何の真似だ誰か言う前に閉めんじゃねえ
Mera is a representation of someone who's always working multiple jobs, yet always seems to be poor no matter what they do. Damn, she's just like me for real. Psyche's parents are the literal definition of relationship goals and one of the few reasons why I believe in true love. And just in case you thought the show was too full of itself, they even add a character that talks way too fast and too much in order to make fun of how fast the subtitles appear in this anime.
突然ですが、さつまいもの紫色はポリフェノールの一種であるアントシアニンによるものだということはご存知ですか？
急にどうした？
私すごい喋るっていうキャラ設定じゃないですか。だからここでそろそろ喋らないと設定を忘れ去られてしまうので。
And if you're still having doubts about watching this, just do it for the sexy Gyaru girl. In conclusion, Saiki K is a masterpiece of a show, and if you're a big fan of anime and are getting sick of some of these tropes and cliches, Saiki will push them to the max in such a unique way you won't even notice because you'll be so busy laughing. And you may have noticed that the format for this video is kind of similar to a death battle because I'm super curious to see how Saiki would be able to manage against other super strong characters. And who do I think would be the best option for him to fight? Well, Anos Voldigoad, of course. I mean, they even have similar backgrounds. So if you want to see Saiki in a death battle, hit that like and subscribe button. We are so close to 1,000 subs, and you are the only person who's able to help me do that. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. Matter of fact, if you hated this video, hit that subscribe button. Matter of fact, if you hate everything about me, hit that subscribe button. And if you don't,
your mom's a hoe.
Crazy how something so special to me don't mean nothing to you. I came from nothing to here. I don't got nothing to prove. I do not fuck with the rules. Yeah, I am happy I'm getting it, and I ain't never had to change up. I do not listen to rhetoric. Yeah, I know that I'm the same one. I swear the sun is my medicine. I feel like Arnold, not Benedict. I got some homies in mansions, and I got some homies in tenements.